Hey everyone, it's John from Ride Upstate, and this is part two of my series on electric vehicles. Now, just a reminder, I am specifically talking about small markets. So, if you live in a market like LA or New York or some other city where there are gajillions of chargers available to you, this does not apply. You can listen to what I have to say. I'm more than happy to have you listen and comment. But remember, a situation where you have a dense population and where there are a lot of availability of charging stations is not going to apply to a situation in a small market like mine. Today I want to talk about the pros and the cons of doing delivery or rideshare with an electric vehicle in a small market. And I'm going to start with the three things that I think are against using an electric vehicle, and then I'm going to talk about three things that are for using an electric vehicle. So number one, and the primary issue I think is price. The cost of these vehicles are expensive. Now, granted, you can pick up used EVs for a discount these days, but given the way the automobile market is right now, and given the fact that EVs are getting in more and more demand, prices are not going to drop as much as they used to. And most people aren't going to be able to afford a Tesla. So they're going to be buying something like a Bolt EV or a Nissan Leaf or a similar Kia Niro, however you pronounce that. That's what they're going to be purchasing. They're not going to be purchasing a Tesla to do rideshare or food delivery because they're just out of their price range. Even $39,000, right? 40 grand is what you need to buy a Tesla Model 3, which is the lowest model that they have right now. Most rideshare drivers, most gig workers are not going to go out and spend 40 grand on a car. They're not even going to spend 20 grand on a car. They're probably going to be in the 15,000 or less market because you're going to put a ton of miles on a vehicle and greatly depreciate it. And that doesn't matter whether it's an electric vehicle, a hybrid, or something that has a traditional ICE engine in it. Okay, the problem number two is the lack of infrastructure for electric vehicles. One of the most difficult things that an EV owner is going to deal with is the lack of infrastructure. It's one thing to be able to pull into your driveway at the end of the night or pull into your garage at the end of the night and charge your car up overnight and leave with a fully charged vehicle. It's a whole other situation to be out on the road, you've got 20 miles of range left, and you've got to find a charger, and then you have to wait and wait and wait for your vehicle to charge before you can continue working. And this is one of the biggest cons right now is they don't charge fast enough. The infrastructure is not out there. The vehicles all generally have different charging standards. I just learned the other day, and again, we're going to be talking about this in upcoming videos. The Bolt EV, that stinking thing doesn't even come standard with DC fast charging. You have to pay extra for it. So these are all issues that are going to come up if you're going to use an EV. I think in 5 to 10 years that's going to change, but right now, it's pretty tough. Okay, and the third thing is going to be range anxiety. Now, whether it's founded or not, people still have range anxiety with their vehicles, especially if they have an inexpensive EV that doesn't get as much range to each charge. And so you're waiting 2 hours to get 130, 150 miles worth of charge. And while for a lot of drivers, that might be plenty for the day if they're doing, deliveries. But for a rideshare driver, not so much. And in some markets, even doing food delivery, if you're working a full 8 hours, that may not be enough. So those are some things to consider as far as cons. Price, a lack of infrastructure, and then range anxiety, whether it's founded or not. Personally, I think if you got at least 150 miles of range, I think that's going to do it great for most people. But again, most people use their primary vehicle for doing gig work. So while it might be enough to do work, is it going to be enough range to also do work and take care of personal matters? All right. You don't want to have to, if you got an appointment coming up in 2 hours or in 30 minutes, you don't want to have to wait to charge. So these are issues. I know specifically in my area, I'm going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into how long it takes to get a certain amount of range with certain vehicles at certain charge stations, because I think that's important to know if you don't drive a Tesla, right? Because most Teslas can charge fairly quickly. All right, so let's talk about the 3 benefits that I see to using an EV. And the first is that they are fairly maintenance free. Now, I'm not going to say 100% maintenance free because that's not true. You're still going to need to do tires and brakes, and there's going to be things that break under warranty, right? But for the most part, you're not doing oil changes. You're not having to worry about that transmission. Because you're using an electric motor, that's going to help with the braking and extend the life of your brake pads. So there's going to be very little regular maintenance that you have to do on the vehicle. And that is a big plus because that's money that stays in your pockets. The second benefit is Uber actually pays you more if you're driving an electric vehicle. They have green options, and if you're in a market where that is supported, you as a driver get paid more if the person chooses the green option. Hey, I just happened to notice I'm wearing a green shirt today. So you can put more money in your pocket because you're getting paid more because of the green option. And the third is your fuel cost, right? Your fuel is kind of built into the vehicle. All you need to do is plug it in somewhere and it charges up and you're all set. You don't have to pay $3 a gallon for gas to go however far you can go with that gas tank. Now, your range is going to be limited, of course, but you are paying less for that range. I think I read somewhere that the average electric vehicle, it costs about $2.50 to $5 to get 150 miles of range. You're not going to get that with a gas vehicle. There's no way you're going to get that with a gas vehicle. Now, granted, in the future, those prices could go up because as there is more demand for electricity prices are going to spike. But hopefully we'll see that balance out in the future. All right, so those are my thoughts on an electric vehicle in a small market. I would love to hear what you think. Personally, I am planning to purchase an electric vehicle in the next 5 to 10 years, but I'm going to have to get my Prius to get there first. If my Prius dies on me in the next year or two, I'm not going to an EV. I can't afford an EV right now. But in the next 5 to 10 years, probably I could. There's going to be more on the market. The prices are going to come down on them, and the range is going to be better. So let me know if you have any plans to get an EV. If you drive an EV, let me know what that experience is like. And again, remember, your market is going to be different than my market. So comparing charge times and the availability of chargers isn't necessarily the same. My name is John from Ride Upstate, reminding you that just because you're in a small market doesn't mean you need to settle for small profits. Bye.